Hello, and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions. And today's focus, we're going to talk about how to take the reins in your business and your life. So we've got Michelle DeMarchi here. She's the founder and owner of PhysioPlus Health Group. And she's not only a physiotherapist and an osteopathic manual practitioner, but she founded PhysioPlus Health Group in 2001. So that's just like me. When I had my practice, I founded it back in 2001. And she's grown her practice to include not only just physiotherapy, but chiropractic care, massage, Pilates, yoga, naturopathic doctors. So she's really grown and brought all these wonderful different services into her business. So great to have you on here, Michelle. I'm looking forward to having you talk about your experiences here with our audience.
Thanks. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you've done a lot over the years here, and I'm just curious about when did you realize that you had to take control of your business growth?
Wow. So it was a few years ago, I'd say just before COVID. So, whatever, 4 or 5 years ago. And like the business, it was a successful business, but the revenue in the past, like the, 2 or 3 years prior to that had plateaued. And it had grown really nicely, but it was at a point where I was just wearing too many hats. I had my hand in everything. And so, I was working crazy hours. I was working like a huge number of hours during the week, on the weekends. And even though the clinic was successful, I was just run off my feet and I was just doing too much. And I was putting out a lot of fires. And that was, I kind of saw myself having to do the same things over and over again, and realized, okay, great, it's a good clinic, but I need to make a change because I can't keep doing this at this pace.
Yeah, I think we all have those pivot moments, right? Like we just realize like this sucks. We're kind of
Yeah,
like got to this point and it's not going the direction that we want. So like something's got to change here, right? So
yeah.
that's I think we've all had that moment. And I've learned a lot over the years where there's actually like these natural phases of business, like revenue, right, where you kind of plateau, right, and that's natural. The thing that you have to do then is you have to change the way that things are happening in order to grow to that next level. But then you hit a plateau there, and then you got to change things again. And the thing that I definitely learned and I realized was that it's often me. I'm the bottleneck, right? And so as the
Yeah.
practice owner, you have to kind of look at it. Am I the bottleneck here in the business, and what's really holding it back from going to that next level?
Yeah, no, and that was definitely the situation I was in, right? With the systems, the things I'd sort of set up worked well when it was a smaller clinic, but it just wasn't working well. So to your point, you have to look at that and realize, okay, it's time to change.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, you kind of figure out a lot of it has to do with you as the owner and you also having to evolve with the business into a different role. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and that's for sure an interesting evolution.
That's definitely. And so, how did you say for yourself, like, how did your mindset have to change as you kind of had that realization that something needs to change?
So I realized I couldn't do everything. I couldn't do it all on my own. And I realized that I needed to kind of step back, and create more space, more time, right? So I had to reduce patient hours because at that point I was still seeing probably, 30 or 35 hours a week of patients,
Wow.
and then trying to run the business on top of that, which is why I was working so many hours. So that was a big part of it, is that I realized I have to reduce my patient hours. And it wasn't as though I went from, 30 hours to zero overnight. It was a gradual uh, change, a gradual sort of decrease in my hours over I'd say the most recently, sort of over the last couple years. But then I also had to remove myself from the day-to-day operations. And this was kind of phase two, in that I couldn't be the one implementing these things. I needed to be the ones overseeing. I needed to have people with me doing these things so that I could not be so busy with the real nitty-gritty of the day-to-day operations. I would oversee the people doing that.
Mhm.
But then that gave me time to really just focus on the higher level things that drive revenue. So, things like staff development, looking at growth opportunities that are there to help drive revenue, implementing systems and processes that just help things run more smoothly. So, as an owner, you're the only one that's going to be thinking of some of those higher level things, but you need time to do it. And so that was really the key for me, is just stepping back from patients to give myself more time, and we're making that conscious effort of not being involved in the day-to-day operations and getting people in place to do those things for me.
Yeah, I think that's such a thing. Like, it's so easy because we're so good at patient care, right? Usually as a practice owner. And so that's the kind of the go-to. And sometimes we're afraid to, hire the additional therapist because we're afraid of the cost of it. But then we don't realize that there's a lot of opportunity there to increase revenue much more if we just claw back some of the time to work on the business instead of working patient care all the time. But yeah, gosh, I mean,
Yeah.
when you're working 30, 40 hours of patient care and that as a full-time job, and then you're trying to do another full-time job and more on top of that, it's too much. You're going to get burnout, right?
Yeah,
Um,
for
from
sure.
that.
For sure.
But I love what you said there too about realizing that you needed to put key people into to do the administrative and managerial tasks, right? And there's a lot of, like you said, nitty-gritty things that happen there, right, in the work week. And you don't need to be doing that. You're a $500 an hour employee, so why would you be doing a $10 an hour or $20 an hour activity, right? So, bringing your key staff in there and having managers to do those tasks. I love that you have that vision, that you did that.
Yeah, I mean, it was scary, right? It was a big leap because, I mean, I think you said it earlier, right? It's that you're kind of taking a leap of faith where, okay, I'm going to have to. One of the first people I put in place was a marketing coordinator. I put a full-time marketing coordinator in place
Mhm.
because I was never getting around to, consistently sending out the newsletters or consistently doing whatever it was that we had, wanted to do marketing wise. There was very little happening. And that was that combined with a clinical education lead. So those were the first sort of two people that I put in place. But
Mhm.
it was scary because I was investing this money without seeing the return, right? It didn't happen right away.
Yeah.
Bigger picture thinking, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to put this money into these people. And hopefully at the end of the year, I'll see the return. So it was really a scary thing to do. I had to take that leap and hope for the best.
Yeah, that's a really great insight. And Michelle, you and I were together at the Clinic Boss Summit in Orlando this year, and I was so surprised when we asked the question of how many people had a marketing coordinator. And there wasn't as many hands as went up as I thought that there would be. And I know a lot of these practices were certainly like three or more providers in their clinic, right? And so there was no one really running the marketing except for the practice owner. And then the
Yeah.
ones that did raise their hand, of those people, the majority just had a part-time marketer that was helping out, maybe 10 hours, 20 hours a week. And so that was extremely surprising too. So for you, you actually said, hey, this is the position that in order to grow, we need to really have a marketing coordinator in there that's going to help us do all these million and one different marketing activities. Um, so I'm kind of curious, what was that mindset that you had said, you know what, this is the person that I need to put in first?
So, I mean, I didn't jump to a full-time person. Like you said, I did originally have a part-time marketing person. She did
Mhm.
part-time front desk, part-time marketing. And it was too difficult. There were always reasons why she was getting pulled out from the back office to help cover at the front. And so the marketing just never happened. It just kind of fell by the wayside. So that, trying that out and failing at that made me realize, okay, I have to get someone who's doing this full time, and ideally somebody who doesn't do anything at the front. And so the person that I hired actually works remotely.
Mhm.
So she doesn't even come into the clinic. She doesn't even live in the city. She lives in a totally different city, but she's part of our leadership meeting. She's part of our marketing meeting. She's part of our quarterly meeting. She's there. She's part of the team. But because she's removed, she doesn't get distracted. It is like it's all marketing all the time, right? That's her
Love it.
main goal. And I should
Yeah.
actually I should say it's 4 days a week marketing. She does do 1 day a week for us,
Mhm.
doing a bunch of like administrative stuff behind the scenes. But she's focused on it the 4 days a week, and that's all she does.
That's awesome. I mean, I can tell why you've gone to that next level because that's not a norm that I've seen with practice owners is they don't say, okay, I need that marketing person full time. I'm going to make them remote so that they're not distracted in the clinic and they just 100% marketing. Like that's kudos to you for looking at that and growing that. But so, you've grown your business here, and I'm curious for you. You talked about, your leadership team and sort of the growth of that. And so, what were some of those, preliminary steps that you've taken to rein in that business and give you more time in your life?
So I sort of decided on, what are the roles who are the people I need around me, right? So I identified those roles and what it is that I needed help with. And so I created those roles around those areas that I knew that I needed help with. And then, brought those people on, gave them that title and that like clearly defined role. And then we put in like some structure behind it. So regular meeting rhythms. So I meet with everybody on my leadership team once a week. And that's to check in on how last week went, talk about, their wins or their challenges. And then we go through all the recurring kind of stuff that we need to talk about with respect to their role. So it gives us that opportunity to kind of talk about, where they might need help, where we're headed for the next week, the next month, the next, quarter, whatever it is. But it's that opportunity to meet. It allows me to hold them accountable, right? Because
Mhm.
they're sent away to do whatever it is they need to do, or they have their project, they have to come back, and we're meeting once a week. So they're held accountable for whatever their responsibilities and their tasks are. And their roles were sort of set up with like really clear like a role description, but expectations. So the combination of the role description with expectations plus the meeting rhythm is really what helped us. And so meeting rhythm with me and them as a one-on-one, but then as a team, putting in a weekly leadership team meeting where we're looking at all things clinic related on the scoreboard. Like, how did the week go, including marketing? So our marketing coordinator is at that meeting and she reports on the marketing side. And then the other key role that I put into place, other than the marketing coordinator, was a community outreach coordinator who does a lot of the like on the ground, in the neighborhood, in the clinic kind of outreach and marketing and support to the clinicians. And a clinical education lead and a clinical operations lead. So together we all kind of tackle all the different areas. And then we're kind of brought together and we've got the weekly leadership meeting plus a weekly marketing meeting. So I meet with my marketing coordinator and my community outreach coordinator every week. And again, we're just looking at, okay, what's coming down the pipe? What do we need to think about next week in terms of our emails, our newsletters, our workshops? What do we want to do on social media? We're sort of planning out what's happening next week, next month.
Mhm.
And it kind of keeps us all on track. Everybody's aware of what's happening, and everybody's again held accountable for, oh, did you get those special programs, information sheets done so we can hand them out to the patients? Yeah, yeah, they're here. And so you kind of like you're always in communication about those things, which it was a game changer. I'd say those two team meetings were huge in terms of getting everybody together with the same goals and
Mhm.
we're all on the same page. And then we layered on top of that quarterly meetings. And that's where a lot of the fun happens, because that's where we come together as a team and think about, okay, well, what are we going to tackle this quarter to help drive revenue in the business? And everybody, comes with their ideas within their area of the business as to what they could possibly do to help drive revenue. And so as a team, we come up with some shared rocks for the quarter and sometimes they're shared, sometimes they're independent, but the concept is we're all coming together, deciding on what we're each going to work on for the next quarter. So
Mhm.
it's the combination of those sort of layered meetings that made a huge difference.
Oh, that's fantastic. And oh my gosh, I mean, so many things to unpack there. One is you identified, okay, who's the right people that I need around me, right, to make this thing happen. And I think you clearly defined those key roles that would help you be successful. And then you find the right people to fill those roles. And then what I love is that you also took a lot of business structure, business principles of the planning, the role descriptions, the key things that they need to be going after, the responsibility part of it, right? And the regular check-ins, the meeting rhythms, that's like the heartbeat of the business. And then, yeah, we do the same thing that you do with like quarterly meetings. Like that's a time where the team comes up with the ideas, right? You're the visionary, you're the practice leader, like, hey, here's where we need to go. And then everybody can bring their input. It really brings them a lot of joy, right? To be part of that whole process of building the future of the practice. So I love what you've done there. That's really a good testament to your leadership and innovation and looking at that. And so, obviously this was a lot of things that you put into place, a lot of changes over time. What's the impact of that been on the PhysioPlus Health Group?
Oh, there's been a lot. So I'd say on the culture side, it's brought everybody together, right? Everybody feels like they're a cohesive team. They have a sense of belonging. Everybody's working towards a common goal because we're working on these common goals, right? So that's been really, really nice. Like even, as a owner, you always feel like you're by yourself at the top, and you still do feel that way.
Mhm.
But just the feeling of having that leadership team around you has helped me be more comfortable in the clinic and feel like I have support and I have help when I need it. But even for them, they also feel the same thing. They feel like they are part of a bigger team. They're, part of the bigger vision of the company, and that's been really great to see. More on an operational side, I'd say it's made things run more smoothly. There's always fires to put out. There's always stuff that happens,
Mhm.
but it's way more predictable. Things run way more smoothly. When something doesn't go right, there are people there that know what to do. So that's helped. That's just helped make it less chaotic. I think for me, um, it's well, so maybe on the revenue side, I'll talk about that too. Like we've grown, geez, like 40, almost 45%
Nice.
over the last 2 years. So we've seen the revenue grow after being plateau, after, we were plateaued, we hit
Mhm.
COVID, everything went down, kind of climbed our way out of the hole of COVID. And we've just been growing ever since. So the amount of growth we've
Fantastic.
seen in the last 2 years has been great.
Oh, that's awesome. I love to hear that. And what you're saying is so true because when you have that leadership team in place, the ability to handle the fires. I mean, it's business, right? There's outside forces that you have no control over. There's things that happen in people's lives, right? That impact, key person may get sick or a family member gets sick or something happened and they have to leave and now you're, like there's all kinds of stuff that's always happening in a business. But one thing I've always found is that if you have, a great leadership team in place, you can pivot and change, right? And that's one of the key things there is if you we've done that time and time again. And
Yeah.
something happens, you've got to adapt fast. But instead of you doing it all, you've got five other people that can help you out. Boy, that you can really make things change quickly.
Yeah, it's huge. And even, the sort of spillover into my like personal time, it means that I don't get caught up in it as much, right? I have more time to be away and have more time with my family. You're not always getting called and pulled into things because you have that leadership team that can handle things while you're
Yeah,
not there.
yeah, and you're not, yeah, you get to choose more of what you want to do, and be a higher level thinker and not necessarily the day to day things that someone else would
Yeah.
be, handling if it's a bit of a challenge, right?
Totally. I think that's actually probably the thing that I love most is that like I'm now doing things that I really enjoy doing, right? I don't have to
Mhm.
do all the stuff that I hated doing. And I'm doing stuff that really excites me and it's a lot more fun.
That's great. And
So
so how did you looked at, I remember you said that kind of marketing coordinator was one of the first kind of the leveling up part for you, but how did you take control of your marketing that helped you grow your business?
So I guess I did a few things. I hired the marketing coordinator. I found the right third-party marketing company after looking around at a few.
Do you want more freedom in your clinic? Then you need to work on your business, not just in it. The top practice owners know that they need a marketing system that consistently attracts patients from the internet. And at Practice Promotions, we've helped hundreds of practice owners skyrocket to the top of Google and get more new patients from online. Go to practicepromotions.net/kit to get our free practice marketing sample kit. It includes all our digital marketing tips and tricks that will get you new patients from Google. That's practicepromotions.net/kit, KIT, for a free marketing kit. And now back to the show.
And then the full-time marketing coordinator became the liaison, right? So I could take that and just sort of give it to her, and I knew that I didn't need to worry about it. So she was the one overseeing the blogs and the newsletters and the emails to patients and organizing the workshops and social media and on and on. So those two things made a big difference. The other thing that we did in the last year is I started with a part-time community outreach coordinator a year and a half ago, and she did part-time at the front desk, part-time community outreach, and now that has transitioned into full-time community outreach. So she'll like support the clinicians and help with caseload management, but she'll get out into the community and make connections with people out there that help, bring patients in the door.
And I think it's surprising, like just how many opportunities there are out there when you start to look in the community, right? There's so many different groups and leaders and businesses and things that you can align with that really just accelerates your brand recognition, the name out there, the opportunities for workshops and meetings and all kinds of things like that. Is that something that you found with community outreach?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a work in progress, and we're still trying to figure out what the right formula is. It all depends on what you're marketing. So, we're sort of targeting, because we're a big clinic, so we have so many niches. We've got vestibular, pelvic, GLAD, chiro, physio, like all these different services. And so you need to market them in different places to try to attract the right patients. So
Right.
we're still, figuring out the right way to do all of that. But there's a lot out there, a lot of places in the community. There's doctors, and the doctor outreach became part of her role, and just trying to connect with the physicians, family doctors, to send their patients. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot out there for sure.
Gotcha. And just on a little bit of a tangent here, but you've added a lot of other great services to your business over the years. And so what is your perception there for clinics that have that opportunity to bring in multiple disciplines into their business versus just keeping it very specific to say physio?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah. So for clinics out there that are maybe thinking about or considering, hey, should I bring in some other disciplines here as part of what we offer versus do I just keep it in physio or physical therapy? What's sort of your take on that, since you brought in a lot of disciplines over time?
So I think there's good and bad. I think as a business owner, you have to remember that there's better margins on certain services, right? So although we have all of these different services, the biggest part of our clinic is physio. So we have, 8 physios, for example, but 2 massage therapists that are part-time, but 8 full-time physios. So
Gotcha.
I think you have to remember and sort of look at what the revenue and the profit margin is, because if you spend too much time on a discipline, that's just not going to give you either revenue or not a great margin because of what you have to pay them. It's not worth it. So you kind of have to weigh that as you're considering whether to add it in. And then the other piece is, there are patients that will, because some of these services are just so complementary. There are patients that will come in for physio, but then will want to go to see a massage therapist. And rather than going out there, they'll stay here, or chiro, right? There's a real synergy between our physios and chiro. So if you have those key services in place, you're going to get that business. It's just going to organically happen because patients will often be looking for more than one service when they call a place.
Excellent. Yeah, and it's something that I see much more of in our Canadian clients than in our US clients. And it is evolving, it is changing here in the United States, but I do think it's really a great offering to patients, right? To the community, to the public. People do like more of that one-stop shop, right? And like you
Do.
said, those synergies between those different disciplines, it's not a competition, it's not a head-to-head. There's benefit in those different services and what they can offer to the market, right? To the people and the care that they can get. So I've definitely seen Canadian clients do very well with that. And I think the audience just really likes that. So coming back to marketing here, we talked about working with the right marketing company, and so just curious from your side, what experience have you had before in the market, right, with choosing different marketing companies?
So I'd have to go back and count, but there were probably 4 or 5 companies that I've tried over the years. And I find that a lot of these, especially when it comes to SEO, like a lot of these companies are very much about, oh yeah, we'll do that. Oh yeah, we'll get you on page 1. Oh yeah, we can do that, no problem. And then there was a lot of just they're not able to deliver on what they promised. And I mean, part of it could be that we're in Toronto. It's a big city. It's super competitive. It's really hard to get on page 1. And we're still not on page 1 for everything, but our rankings have definitely come up a lot. So that was one of the like frustrations that I definitely ran into. Part of it was also too that companies don't necessarily know the physiotherapy clinic space. And that I found was a challenge for some of the companies. And I do recognize though that in the past, we didn't have the right people in the clinic to be able to support what the marketing companies were trying to do for us
Mhm.
either. So it might have been slightly different had I had the leadership team and a marketing coordinator in place at that point. Um, but but there are a lot of like just people that will promise and not deliver, and that's I feel was like one of my frustrations in the past for sure.
Yeah, and it's something that we chat to clinic owners all the time, and it's there's a lot of digital marketing. Everybody and their mother is doing it, right? So there's hundreds and hundreds of companies out there for you to work with. But I know just from being in practice and being a PT, like we're a little unique in some of the things that we do, right? And so you
Yeah.
need to have that understanding, that knowledge of what works specifically for, your industry. So something that, a company might be very good at digital marketing, but they're working with, the home services industry, right? That's a big part of their client, but they're also helping a few medical practices here and there. Do they really have the knowledge and the know-how of what the patients are going to go for from a physio side or physical therapy side? It may not gel. It may not be able to get you the kind of results that you can get. So, that's something that we've definitely had experience talking with clinic owners over time. And so, as you've dialed in your marketing here over time, like what has that done for your business growth?
Oh, it's been huge. It's had a huge impact. So, our revenue has gone up by almost 45% in the last 2 years. We've seen our website traffic probably double. Website leads have doubled. Our new assessments are up. So all of that built, sort of feeds into more revenue and growth. Um, it's been interesting though too because things like our newsletter, we tried to kind of put a newsletter together before and kind of did. The open rate sucked. It was like 25% and didn't really know what we were doing. So and it's not consistent, but I'd say consistently our newsletter now is the open rate is between 45 to 50%. So almost doubled
Awesome.
there as well.
Yeah.
So it's had a huge impact. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. There's no doubt.
That's the thing. As practice owners, we try to do a lot of stuff ourselves because we're great at solving problems. We're great at fixing things, right?
Yeah.
So we try to be a jack of all trades, right? I know that. I can testify to when we started our practice in 2002. We started our practice in 2002. We sold it in 2010. But I always remember, we were told like you got to do a patient newsletter, right? That's something that's a good practice to do from a marketing perspective. But it took us 6 months to write our first newsletter.
Yeah, exactly.
What to write about.
Yeah, 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 that's it exactly. So, great.
Yeah.
That's 2 a year.
2 a year. Yeah, exactly. We're going to get a lot of patients off of that. So yeah, we
Yeah,
got better over that over the years for sure. And now
yeah,
that's something that we do for practices all over. But
yeah.
as you grow your business and you market to the future, like what do you see there? Like what's your plan?
Well, I'm going to continue doing everything I'm doing, and we sort of layered on, and we've done more and more over the last 2 years, and that goes across like many things. So we're going to continue to do patient emails. We send our patients an email a week, and it's not just promotional. It's giving them good information. It's sending them a link to one of our blogs. It's health information that they can use. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to do workshops,
Mhm.
continue to work on, all the not us, but all the back end stuff, the SEO, Google ads, all of that will continue behind the scenes. I think we'll continue to focus a lot on SEO just because Toronto is such a competitive market.
Mhm.
And what we do specifically is I have people write blogs. So in addition to the blogs that we get, on our website from you guys, we create our own blogs and we use
Excellent.
that in our marketing as well. So we'll continue to do that. And existing patients, I'd never really put a lot of time into thinking about, other than a monthly newsletter. We've never, up until the last couple of years, not put a lot of thought and time into taking advantage of our existing patient base. And so we'll continue to do that. I think what I'd like to do more of, that we have just started doing in the last 6 months or so, is more community outreach, because the bit that we've done in the last few months has been really great. And so I think combining the community outreach, like feet on the ground, get out in the community, get out to the doctors, combined with all the digital stuff behind the scenes, is what we'll focus on.
That's awesome. That's gonna be powerful. Yeah, and so I think what you've really identified there is that we're a connected world, and you've seen the results there. By focusing on what do we need to do to be found online, right? We need to maximize our online presence in our community as much as possible. You can double the number of people to your website, right? That's huge, right? And the amount of people that are coming from that can really feed the practice on a consistent basis. And then I love what you're really looking at, the community aspect of it, because that can merge both the digital world and in-person groups and activities, right? They're going to start to investigate you online, but you get that exposure within that group or that meeting that you get to be part of, right? And I know you've done a lot of work here with reviews. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of what you've done there towards growing your reviews online?
Yeah, so this was a little bit of a trial and error. We tried a bunch of stuff and finally found something that worked. But what we do is, to get a sort of a slow drip of reviews in, is a combination of two things. One is the front desk will try to remember to ask for a review. It just doesn't happen consistently enough.
Mhm.
And so our marketing coordinator will send an email out, and I can't remember like how she picks the names, but it's like going back to people maybe that were in last month or something. I can't remember. And we'll do it clinician by clinician. So every week we send out a, like, would you mind reviewing us email that comes from the clinician. It's like the
Mhm.
sender is the clinician's name.
Nice.
So the patient will like notice that, right? And they'll read it.
Mhm.
And so our marketing coordinators, is part of her weekly tasks, is every week she picks a new clinician and cycles through all the patients they've seen. And so every week's a little different, but we probably get, I'd say a couple of reviews a week. So it's that slow
Fantastic.
drip.
And that's what Google likes to see. Yeah, they know, and that's one of the things too. Like if you work hard at a blitz of reviews, that's great. You get the reviews in, but then you don't do anything for another 6 months, and you don't get another review. It's sort of like going to that restaurant and you're checking out the reviews on the restaurant, and the last one was posted a year ago, and you're
Yeah.
thinking, is it any good anymore at this
Yeah.
restaurant? That's exactly what goes through people's heads. So consistent reviews, even just one a week or a couple a month, is much better than a blitz and then not doing anything with it. Uh,
Yeah.
And
And
so,
it's amazing, like the number of people that will call in and say they chose us because of the positive reviews has been really interesting to hear too.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge. It's huge. And so it's definitely a strategy that you have to keep focusing on, right? So that social proof out there, which is the different reviews, and weaving that into your website, weaving that into your social media, just goes a really long way.
Yeah.
And so, Michelle, as you worked with us here at Practice Promotion, how has your experience been?
Overall, like great. It's been a super positive experience. What I love about it is the consistency it's provided, right? It's given us a bit of a framework around which we, like our marketing team here, can kind of, work with you.
Mhm.
The other piece I love is that like all the really technical stuff, like the SEO and the Google ads, which I don't know what I'm doing. But Google changes their algorithms. I don't know how often, and every time they change them, everybody's scrambling behind the scenes to try to figure out what to do. Like that is not something that I, as a physiotherapist and clinic owner, should be doing. So I really love that um, you guys have really helped us with that. It's been a huge, huge help. And it's really nice just that, we're when we work with you, we're working not just one person, but we have a team of people. So we have someone that just does the newsletter, someone who's just responsible for Google ads, someone who's working on SEO. And so I feel like you get these experts in their own areas that are kind of working together in different ways to help with our marketing, which has been really great.
Excellent. Love the feedback there. Thank you so much. And you're right. Google makes 300 to 400 updates every year, and usually two or actually three or four major ones. And they don't tell you. They don't tell you until they've done it. And then there's this mad scramble of, oh my gosh, stuff changed here. But you know what the thing is? It usually, if the foundation is good, there's a little fluctuation, and then things go back to growing. So
Yeah.
that's the way we approach the SEO on that. So Michelle here, thank you so much for your information, but do you have any final thoughts for our audience here?
Yeah, so I would say remember that like marketing, it's a slow burn. It's not going to be a quick, you're going to do this today and tomorrow you're going to have 50 new patients coming through the door. Changing your mentality to kind of think about it as the long game is pretty crucial, and to be consistent, because if you're not consistent with it, it's not going to work. And the other piece that I have really learned over the last few years is you really need multiple strategies. You can't just rely on one or two things. You've got to try to tackle it from as many different areas as possible,
Mhm.
and then measure what you're doing, because then you'll know what's working and what's not working. You'll know where to put your marketing dollars. If you don't measure it, you have no idea if what you're doing is actually working or not. And that's not good. You need to understand sort of what you need to do for your practice, what works for you, and what doesn't work for you.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, wonderful advice there. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your wisdom with us and your success. Congratulations on all your success in your practice, and I wish you much success into the future. I know you do super well with all the actions that you have in place there and just the frameworks that you have going. It's really impressive to see that. So, thank you so much for being on here, and to all our audience out there, wishing you much success in growing your business.
Thank you for listening to the Practice Marketing Podcast. Don't forget to get your free practice marketing sample kit at practicepromotions.net/kit. Start 2024 off the right way by building marketing systems that automatically attract new patients from online. That's practicepromotions.net/kit.